So exploring the ag drone workflow. So today all about agriculture, EBSQ Sequoia camera. And I have with me Daniel Murphy and Matt Delano from the US team and Martin Scheiber from the senseFly team here in Switzerland.
Hello everyone.
Hello everyone.
Good. So the content, I skip this slide and go right into the ag drone workflow because that's all what we're going to talk about today. We have, first of all, we start here at your farm management information systems, how to export field boundaries and take them into your Emotion Ag, your flight planning software in order to define your flights. Then how to basically do the flight, where of course today we don't actually go outside. We use a bit the simulator, but from there we'll take you anyhow to the importation of the data and processing either in Pix4D Cloud or in Pix4D Desktop. This Pix4D Desktop, we'll look a bit more into detail on indices, how you can calculate them, and how you can create your application map. And then we'll go back to your farm management system and show you how you can import one of those application maps. And with this, I hand over to Daniel, who's going to show you how to export field boundaries.
Thanks, Andrea. So as was just mentioned, I will show you a very useful part of the ag workflow. Of course, exporting existing field boundaries from an FMIS saves you a lot of work in flight planning because you don't have to redraw them, right, in any Emotion Ag. So the simpler, the better. So the software that you see here is an FMIS by a company called AgLeader. The name of the software is FMIS. So that stands for Spatial Management System. It's an example of a pretty popular FMIS here in, at least in the US. So on the left, you see the management tree, which is a portion that you can use to kind of catalog and keep track of all your data from recent and past years. So how to make an export is very simple. Depending on whether you click the name of the farm or the particular field, you can actually change what is exported. So if you click the name of the farm and export from there, you actually will be making a shapefile or a KML of all the fields that exist in that entire farm. Or what we'll do for this particular example is you can just export one field at a time. So this is the name of the field. It's called the 120. So we can make a right click and go to export. The best option here is export a generic file. We'll choose shapefile, export to selected file format. We'll give it a name. And that's all that it is to export a field boundary from an FMIS.
Thank you, Daniel. And with this, we hand over to Martin, who's going to show us the next step, how to actually import those boundaries into Emotion Ag.
All right, so hello everyone from my side again. Thank you very much, Daniel, for showing us how to export field boundaries. Now I will start talking a little bit about how to use this export in our software, the Emotion Ag, so that actually you can benefit from the export functionality of an FMIS system and the import functionality of our Emotion Ag software package. What you see here now on the screen is, you probably all know that because you're not new to Emotion, is the welcome screen of Emotion Ag. That changed quite a bit compared to Emotion 2 that we used to have for quite a long time. On this welcome screen, you basically have three different little windows that you can click the idea here is basically just to set up a mission and do your flight planning. So the first thing that you would do is here on the left side, your mission is to select your drones. For every mission, you need to tell Emotion what are the drones that you're using. We only have two options with Emotion Ag. It's EB and EBSQ. This is because there's no camera options, basically, because Emotion Ag is specifically designed for the Sequoia camera. Therefore, we always assume it's the Sequoia camera what you're using, and you have two options of drones that you can use it with. Then you can, here in the middle, load a mission that you've been using before, or open the last mission, or, and this is the most important or interesting thing here on the right, import fields, because this is where we basically take the field boundaries that Daniel has just exported from his FMIS and take them into Emotion Ag. So it's create a mission based on either KML or shapefile format. When you click this, we have just a normal folder structure, so we just can go where we can find the field boundaries. It's here in an SHP, a shapefile format, very popular GIS format as well. And if we click on open, then automatically we get these field boundaries loaded in. It's a different field than what the Daniel has been showing, because this one actually consists of two different fields, one here, a bigger one, and a smaller one in the corner. And as you can already see, Emotion automatically creates already a basic flight plan for each of the fields. And you see the change when you click each of them. The most important thing when talking about using different field geometries is here on the left side, this panel. We have see at the moment only one field, but we can, because this is the one that is activated, we can deactivate it and close it, so no field is activated. Then we can see that we have two different fields here as a choice. One is called MyField1 and the other is called MyField2. The important thing or interesting thing here is that you can actually edit the flight plan really field specific. So you can have two fields with different kind of flight plan. I'll just give a quick example here. So for this field, we can choose a resolution that's a little bit higher, so maybe around 14 centimeter and a medium overlap of 75%. And you see that we will have a flight altitude of 150 meter, while at the second field, which is MyField2, it stays at the standard of 160 meter with a resolution of 11 centimeters and a low overlap choice. So this is just to point out, you can have different fields that you import, different fields in one shapefile or KML file that you import, and you can adjust the flight plan specifically to the field. What you can do as well, if you have a lot of fields, you can as well apply the settings for one field to all of the others. This is done by clicking on the Apply to Missions Fields button, which is in each of the separate fields. If you do that, then the other fields will be assigned with exactly the same values regarding resolution, camera choice, overlap, and so on. Just show you this. You might have noticed that for the second field now we have exactly the same values. This can be very handy if you have a lot of different fields that you all want to fly with the same settings. All right, so let's go into serious flight planning now. I want to show you just the steps that you have to take in mind. First of all, as you all know, we need to define a takeoff position, or start waypoint where EB will fly right after the start and use it to go up to the 75 meters that we have defined here before it starts the mission. We as well have to define the landing position before we can go now. I just put it closer here and give it some space. I have noticed that quite a lot of people tend to give very little space to their drones as a landing sector. I always suggest to actually give as much as is possible, because then the drone can decide itself which is the best angle against the wind, and this is where we always should land, against the wind. It can decide by itself from which direction to come in. So I always offer EB the full range which is possible without any obstacles coming in. So here you might do something like this, for example. You can add more sectors as well if that is what you're looking for. All right, so basically now we are set up. We have our missions. We have two fields with the same settings. We have a start waypoint. We have a landing sector and the landing point. And now I just want to show you a quick demo flight. You connect to the drone by clicking here down in the left corner. It's a little bit hidden. And since I don't have a real drone at the moment here, I will just start a simulation with an EBSQ drone. All right, so start waypoint and landing have been assigned automatically. You will see that the two fields are not 100% within our flight range without the radius, the working area. So I have to extend this a little bit. I do this here in the briefing tab on the panel on the left, and put the radius to around 1,000 meters, just to be sure that the whole mission is within our working area. I defined a flight altitude of just around 150 meters, so I'm putting the ceiling up just a little bit to be sure we can actually stay below that. All right, so now we are basically ready to go with assigning fields. So now we have two fields. You can assign them either separately or all at once. If you click on the assign all fields to a drone, what is important here is the order you can see in the panel here. The field that is on the top will be flown first, while the one that is on the bottom will be flown afterwards. You can adjust here the order if you want to by just basically drag and drop. If I take this one and put it to the top, you will see that the flight plan will adjust straight away. So I will first fly field 2 and then field 1. So this is, you can really play around here and do whatever suits you best. When you're done with that, we can basically start the simulation. I'll throw the EB up in the air against the wind, of course, and let it go on its mission. So now it's starting with the second field, once it's going up to the desired altitude. And afterwards it will do the first one. Let's just give it the possibility to shoot a few photos. And I want to show you that you actually still have the full control above everything while the drone is in the air. You can unassign the other field, reassign it, change orders. Even now that the drone is doing the field number 2, you can still take field number 1 and drag it to the top, and then it will straight away stop with field number 2 and go to field number 1 and fly that first, or vice versa. So this is just to show you that still, while the drone's in the air, you have full control over your mission planning with everything. All right, I think this is the most important topics covered for here. So the drone would go on. I'll just call it back now for landing so that we can take a look now a little bit on the post-processing. You know, here we go. Andrea has been mentioning before that today from the data processing side, we want to cover basically two different software solutions. Well, it's basically one solution is Pix4D, but they have recently brought a new product on the market, or co-product, which is called Pix4D Cloud. That's what it looks like if you take a look on the internet. It's just a login screen, and it's called cloud.pix4d.com, which offers processing capabilities as well as the capabilities to share data and so on. From senseFly side, we are closely cooperating with Pix4D, and we are offering with Immersion Act the option to actually directly connect to the Pix4D cloud and get the data processed there. I want to show you right now the steps that you need to take to do that. So the first of all is we need to make it possible for Immersion Act to log into your Pix4D cloud account. You see, if you have Pix4D, you're able to set up your account if you don't have one yet, and you get a username and a password, and this is basically what we need as well to connect up with Pix4D Cloud. What you have to do before doing this is in the Options tab here in Immersion Act on the left. There is, right on the bottom, there is something called Clouds. If you click that, you will have Pix4D here. And then what you can do, you can, if it's not checked yet, check the mark for using Pix4D Cloud solution. Then you provide your credentials and your password. You can check the connection. And if the login is successful, then after the post-processing, we can automatically upload our data to Pix4D Cloud. All right. So much about this. Now we talk about the next point that I want to cover is the general post-flight workflow, which is, I think, known to everyone. You get there by clicking on the post-flight button on the left. I have one example prepared. I did not use my computer to fly, so I choose on no on this one. I'll create a project folder. I just call it Pix4D in my webinar folder, and go to the next step. I'm doing that a little bit faster because I know that you're all familiar with this already. So since I don't have the drone here, but I have the PBX file that I copied from the drone, so I have to point Immersion Act to the PBX file and as well to the EFL file. Not 100% necessary, but helps a little. And then I give Immersion Act just a second to load the data in. And then we will change location very quickly because this flight was not done in Iowa in the US where the fields are that you've been seeing so far. But it's actually a flight that has been done pretty close around the senseFly headquarters, which is in Switzerland. Here we go. So we see the flight plan that I have been doing. I'm just pointing it to the folder with the images, which is here. And give it a little bit of time to read the images in. This will take a little bit of time that I will use now to show you a little bit more about Pix4D Cloud. One important thing, the first thing I want to show you, this is the welcome screen of Pix4D Cloud. When you process Sequoia data and then those getting uploaded from Immersion Act, you have to first change something in the settings here to make sure that these Sequoia images are actually getting processed by the right templates, which are RGB and multispectral. We will hear about that a little bit later, but just to make sure that that happens on the cloud as well. You have to change the account settings, which you can get to by clicking down here on account settings. And then there's some personal details here. There is as well a solution preference, and this is what is important to make sure that your data is being processed properly. You have to make sure that here Pix4D Ag is selected. Then Pix4D Cloud will assume or will know that Sequoia images are coming in and will treat them properly and not do things that are actually meant for other cameras. So this is one of the main things to keep in mind. Okay. Now back to Immersion Ag. The images have been loaded, so I have by select outputs now a few just the general options that you have, but one is new here. That is called upload images to Pix4D Cloud. If you set up your account right, then you can put a marker here, and even if you want to, take the marker out of the desktop project if you don't want to process it on the desktop. I'll keep both for the moment, and then Immersion Ag will upload directly. I'll just deactivate compress raw images here to make the processing a little bit faster from us. And then the next step, the images will be geotagged and prepared. I will use this minute as well to take another closer look at the Pix4D Cloud. The welcome screen, if you choose Pix4D Arc, which we are using here, clicking on it, then you will see all the data sets that have been uploaded to your account. I have not uploaded any to my account yet, but there is a Sequoia demo dataset that I wanted to show you. So if you have more, there will be a list here. You see the name, creation date, the amount of images, the status of the project, as well as download options. If you take a look there, you will see that you're basically able to download from Pix4D Cloud everything that you process as well, or what you get as an output of the Pix4D desktop solution. If you click on the dataset, you can actually view it. Just give the internet connection a second to load. See, then you get this nice image of Sequoia flight that Pix4D has been doing around the area here, and you have here on the right side a panel where you can access all the different data sets that are available. You have the NDVI here. You can play around here with a scale and adjust it to your specific needs. You can as well access the RGB mosaic, so the mosaic that you get being created from the RGB camera of Sequoia. You can even take a look at the DSM that's being created based on this data. And you can do some basic measurements of distance, area, and so on. Now this is just a very brief introduction into Pix4D Cloud. I can cover the details here. There will be certainly other occasions where we can take a closer look at this. One important thing, I think one of the main selling arguments actually from my personal opinion of a cloud solution like Pix4D Cloud is that you can easily share this data now. You can basically, if you click on share up here on the right side, you can you get a link that you can share with anyone that you want to, maybe an agricultural advisor or just your brother or father, whoever you choose to share it with, and then those people can actually access the data, so you can easily get more knowledge, or people with knowledge in, and take a look and getting their opinion about your field. More advanced, but it's possible as well, you can use this data to be embedded in other HTML websites. Okay, so this as a short input for Pix4D Cloud. If you take a look at Immersion Ag, now the processing, basically the post-processing in Immersion Ag is finished. You can see here on the left that around 970 images have successfully been geotagged, and there have been two different Pix4D projects being created, one for the RGB data of Sequoia and one of the multispectral data. Those two data sets have to be processed separately, but we will hear about that in a second. And then you see as well here two little upload buttons that show you that the upload of the post-processed image to Pix4D cloud has been started. There as well you have two uploads. It's 192 images, which is called Pix4D RGB, which is the RGB project, and 777 images, which are the multispectral ones, which will be processed separately as well by the Pix4D cloud. Usually it takes, depending on the size of your dataset, takes a little while till everything is uploaded. Once it's done, you're getting an email when the upload is done, and then it takes a little bit of time of processing in the cloud. And when the whole dataset is being processed, you get another email, and then you're able to access it just the way I've showed you a minute ago. Well, and basically with this, we are finished with Emotion Ag post-processing, and I want to hand over to Andrea to talk a little bit more about the Pix4D desktop solution and what you have to take care of, or what you have points that you have to keep in mind here. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin, for this workflow. Now I'll take you to the next step, to Pix4D desktop solution. So not cloud desktop, but of course you can also process on your desktop and then upload to the cloud. That's also an option. Now we've seen with Martin that Emotion Ag creates two Pix4D projects from the Sequoia data that we're collecting. Once we have the RGB one, and the other one will be the multispectral one. Let's look first at RGB one. Of course, you will get the normal preview. Depending how many flights you did, you might end up having to merge projects together or put all images into one folder and create from there a new project. Important is that you always go and check if the right template, processing template, is selected. This template will automatically adjust all the processing options for you, so that you don't need to know which buttons and check marks you have to go and change or deactivate. In the Manage Templates, you get an overview over them, and we'll see here for agriculture RGB, it's designed for RGB cameras such as Parrot Sequoia RGB. It will treat the rolling shutter of the RGB sensor specifically, and the output that we're getting is an orthomosaic. The orthomosaic, though, is not visible within Pix4D. You would have to open the results through your results folder, go find it in the third folder, which contains the mosaic here, and there you find your TIFF. Then you have to open that RGB or the mosaic in either QGIS or your farming system. So that was the simpler part. Now, the multispectral project. Here, of course, if on the home screen, sorry, map view, you end up with almost the same view here. And again, you need to check in processing options that the right template is selected. If you go directly from Emotion Ag, it usually recognizes which kind of data it is and will automatically select the Ag multispectral template, where in the description for the Ag multispectral template, you will find that you will get the reflectance map, an index map, and the application map. Another thing, though, that you have to make sure, and is not fully automated, is that you go in and have a look at the third step on the index tab, index calculator tab, where you actually adjust the radiometric processing and calibration options. Since we are taking a picture through the calibration button in eMotion Ag. These pictures are added here, and first you need to select the correction type. This is newer, so for the ones of you who've already worked longer with Pix4D, this is quite new. And actually what we're interested in is here camera and sun irradiance, and camera, sun irradiance, and sun angle. And actually this option here, the last one, containing most things, it is most useful if your flight was during stable weather conditions, so either full cloud cover or blue sky. Camera and sun irradiance, so just 2 parameters taken into consideration, is good if you had a scattered clouds kind of changing weather conditions. Once you've selected your correction type, you need to go into calibrate, and usually it automatically finds the correct image right away. So you see here I clicked, was here in the Sequoia green band, and I'm making sure here just that in the image name of the calibration target, it says green inside the naming of the file. It will automatically draw then a rectangle here and also recognize which target it is, and the albedo value should already be entered. If that's not the case, you just read it from your target and you enter it here. This you verify for all 4 bands, and once this is done, there are some more options that you can choose here, like the resolution, reflectance map, whether you want it to be merged, different indices you want to have already processed, if you want to export a point shapefile, and the resolution of the polygon shapefile. The polygon shapefile is actually your application map. So this is the place here where you define the resolution, and it depends greatly on the type of machine or the type of resolution you're looking for in your application map. And you see the default is at 4 meters. So if you're looking at a bigger machine or a larger scale application, maybe 500, 600 centimeters is more applicable. Good, so once done, you process it through processing, and then you go into the index calculator to check out your results. There we go, just, I like the green better, there. And from here, so this is now our reflectance map. We have 4 of them, and we can draw an area. So under the second step here too, we can draw regions. We have a regions window, we can add more fields, etc. We don't want to do this now, I keep my 1 field. Oftentimes I get people not realizing that you can actually still change the field boundaries here by just unlock your regions, and then you can move the point here. Quite useful. And then lock them again. Now for calculating your index, you have here the first step. Let me just, voila. And there you have certain indices that are pre-calculated, and basically you just need to say, yes, I want this one, and generate it. If you though are interested in a special index, you click on indices and say add, and here you basically get a calculator where the factors that you can use are your 4 bands, and of course any numbers that you would like to add, for example soil factors or moisture, something within your index that you would like to have. And this, let's quickly look at some very common indices. We all know the NDVI, normalized different vegetation index, basically doing differentiation between the near-infrared band and the red band. So looking at the difference there, and therefore normalizing it and coming up with values between -1 and +1. Plus, the higher towards +1, the better, the healthier your plant. This index is quite robust. It's quite used. It has a lot of history. It is good to detect also winter wheat kill or doing early growth estimations. The disadvantage there is a bit that it saturates quite quickly if your leaf area increases or gets quite high throughout the season. Then just below we have the green vegetation index. So it's basically the NDVI, but instead of the red band, it's using the green band. And this one proves to be much more sensitive to chlorophyll or higher chlorophyll, which means you can still use it once the NDVI gives you a bit those saturates and doesn't give you much detail anymore in your data. The green NDVI gives you still much more information about the state of your plants. Then the OSAV is also a vegetation index, looking a bit at the same stuff as the NDVI, but it's taking into consideration the soil. So you will have a soil factor, a specific number. You would find it in scientific reports or any management system. And this soil factor is just multiplied with the index. And this is quite good if you have sparse vegetation and you want to calculate, for example, early growth estimations. Then the NDRE is doing the differentiation between the red edge and the near infrared. So it's actually very good for detecting senescence and is very sensitive to chlorophyll content. It's also a bit more modern and it's quite scientific. Science has been doing a lot of research in that area, and there is a lot of material backing up this index. All four of them are actually the most known ones. Of course, you're free to use or build any indices that you want. Now, once you decided on the type of index that you want to use and you calculated it, you will go on and specify the number of classes that you would like to have your data split into, and you can adjust here some statistics as well, the distribution of the data. And once you're happy with this, you can go and even define the prescriptions, which will then basically added as attributes to your application map. Now, with the rate here, that would be the rate of fertilizer or whatever you would like to add to the field, and you can add a comment in order to know what you have been referring to. This is best, though, to be done with the agronomist, with the professional who really knows what he's looking at. So once we're happy here, we go and export that file, with just here where it says index values and rates as polygon shapefiles with grid size. So that would be the 400 centimeters from before in the options. You click on export, and this actually goes quite quickly. Voila, there we go. And now when you go into your results folder under indices, you will find in the red edge folder now your polygon shapefile. Now, what do we do with this polygon shapefile is gonna be shown by Daniel. So Daniel is gonna show us how one can bring this shapefile into a farm management system.
Thanks, Andreas. So yes, I'll be showing an example of how to bring that application map back into FMIS, the farm management information system that we're using here, which brings us back full circle, kind of on our whole processing workflow for the ag side here at senseFly. So it's relatively straightforward. We just click read file, or we can come here from the file menu, drop down, and choose read file. Again, generic source with that shapefile that we created in Pix4D. So confirm here. And we can come in and actually choose any of the application maps or shapefiles that we created for any of our different indices. I'll continue with the NDRE for this particular made-up example. So we can confirm the basic elements of that shapefile. And for this example, we can make up a dry fertilization prescription. And here we map the rows from our shapefile into the software here, into the SMS. So we'll choose NDRE, and an example of a common unit here would be pounds per acre. So we can see that reflected here in the bottom part of this screen. We can clip to our field boundaries. We can choose our grower, our farm, and our field. It brings us back to the 120 where we started. The year will be 2017. And again, we can choose an example product like NH3 ammonia. Finish. Come back to our management tree. And see that we've successfully imported our application map into SMS. And that's it. Now I'll pass it back to Andrea to give you some more tips and tricks about eMotion Ag and eMotion 3.
Great, thank you, Daniel. And with this, we sort of closed the circle from the beginning. We really started at the farm management system, and we went all the way through and brought the data back in.